All right, my guest is here, Edward Dowd. It's a little more of a free-flowing show nowadays. I can talk to my wonderful guests as long as I want, and so I could be a little late because we could just stay here forever, Ed. Founder of Finance Technologies, author of Cause Unknown, a great book, The Epidemic of Sudden Deaths in 2021 and 2022, former portfolio manager at BlackRock, where he oversaw a $14 billion portfolio. Obviously a brilliant guy, obviously knows his math, and he's been one of my go-to guys for all the COVID events going on, COVID vaccine events, death events, injury events, disabling events going on across the United States. Ed, welcome to the show, first of all. How are you?
Good to be here, Wayne. Thanks for having me on again, brother.
I remember when you were talking about, forget about deaths for a minute, let's put them aside. You were talking about how many people have become disabled since the COVID vaccine. It was numbers that no one had ever seen before. Has that flattened out now, or are there still more excess people now claiming to be disabled and no longer working than ever before, and it keeps rising, or is it flattened out? Where is it at right now?
When you and I talked several years ago, it had risen to 3 million, above the baseline. It had kind of peaked out at 29 to 30 million for 5 years prior to COVID. Then in February of 21, it took off. And then around 2022, 23, it got to 3 million above. Unfortunately, I'm here to say it's now 6 million, and it looks like a growth stock, and it's not flattened out. It does have periods where it goes sideways, but then it goes to a new high. And we went to a new high last month.
Incredible.
And again, I want a lot of the pushback I get on this is, it's because of the boomers. It's because of illegal immigrants. It's because of fraud. This is a survey, and if you answer one of 6 questions, you're marked down as disabled. They don't ask you if you're disabled. They ask you 6 questions during the survey, and and this is the non-farm payroll report. It's all part of the same thing, and so it's a survey, and they statistically impute it. So it's not tied to a Social Security disability payment. Illegals tend to avoid talking to the government, so they're usually not picked up. And the boomers could account for some of this, but not a 22.5% rise in 6 years. It'd be maybe like 1-2% of demographics. So obviously you and I blame the vaccine, and this is a tragic event that continues to kind of roll quietly through society.
This is all-time record levels of people on the disabled list. I think you could say some of it. I'll even be fair and say, with an asterisk, some of it has to be from the COVID vaccine, because it only started the excess disabled and the excess death and the excess injuries. All of it started at the moment we rolled out the COVID vaccine, not the moment of COVID, the COVID vaccine. Am I right about that? That's when it began?
Well, the excess deaths, there were 500 excess deaths in 2020, but I would contend they were counting anything as COVID back then. Right. And there was also death-dealing hospital protocols that kind of inflated the numbers. Right. And they denied early treatment. So 500,000 pre-COVID, pre-vaccine, then another 500,000 excess deaths in 2021. But it was a flip. It was a mix shift from the old in 2020 to the young in 2021. So apparently the virus decided to go attack young people. You'd have to assume that, which we've never seen a virus. Obviously, I blame the vaccines and whatnot. This is like a tragic. And look, the good news is more and more people have figured this out. The problem is officialdom. The state has really not talked about this, and it's kind of like a third rail at this point.
Well, if you look at the Daily Mail, do you ever read the Daily Mail? It's kind of a fascinating online newspaper, and it used to be the UK Daily Mail. Now it's just called the Daily Mail, and it applies to America. They've got a UK version, an American version, and I read it every day because it's got all these salacious articles. Reminds me of the New York Post. It's fun to read because it's so wild. Everything's salacious and interesting and controversial, and they keep having articles, Ed, about how young people have cancer in numbers no one's ever seen, and that no one's ever seen young people with colon cancer and young people with bowel cancer, and they can't understand it. And no one's ever seen so many young people with Parkinson's disease, and no one's ever seen so many people, period, with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. all of which, if you speak to experts like Peter McCullough, one of the great doctors in America who's a guest on my show all the time, he'll tell you every one of those is a side effect of the COVID vaccine. And when you read the articles, they go, we asked 50 doctors. No one can understand why young people are getting cancer they never got, or Parkinson's, or ALS. They come up with every excuse. It's got to be food additives. It's got to be your lifestyle. You're sitting in the sun too much. You're drinking too much. You're vaping too much. The one thing they will never say is the COVID vaccine. And yet you and I both know all these increases have come only since 2021, when everybody was forced, at least all the people who worked, were forced to get the COVID vaccine.
Yeah, and we showed in some of our research on financetechnologies.com under the humanities projects, we have papers we put out. We saw multiple different cancers inflect in young people. That's 25 through 44, beginning in 2021. The only cancer that had been rising consistently was colon, but colon had another step forward. But the other cancers were coming down, and they all inflected in this young cohort around 2021 and kept rising in 22 and 23. The standard deviations we saw above trend line, were above 3 sigma, which, tells you something's going on. It's a signal something's changed. And you know what? My favorite new excuse is the one out of Australia a couple months ago, where they said that the increase in cancer amongst young people could be due to the fact that they're aging faster than their elders. Oh, okay.
And why?
Great.
Why are they aging faster? They come up with all these crazy excuses. How about, again, they'll tell me I'm wrong in applying this to a personal situation, which is not scientific enough for them. But I just know a lot of people. I'm always telling people that I have 6,000 names in this phone. That's how many names are in my phone address book. 6,000. I mean, and I only put you in here if you're a friend, a business associate, a fan who contacts me all the time. I mean, these are all people I really know. 6,000. And all of them constantly tell me, every one of them, that a lot of people they know are dying or dead or very sick or very injured or disabled. And they say, all my friends who are unvaccinated, every person in his phone says that, all my friends who are unvaccinated are fine. And all my friends who are dead or dying or very sick all have one thing in common: they're vaccinated. When everybody says that, isn't that called a cancer cluster? I think it is scientific. 6,000 people is pretty scientific. Everybody says they know people who died after getting the COVID vaccine and who were never sick before that. I think my personal friends and associates is a pretty scientific thing that indicates something is wrong.
Anecdotes, first of all, anecdotes like that should lead to questions, and 6,000 is not enough proof, but it's enough to ask the question. And Senator Ron Johnson, I think held hearings recently talking about potential for cancer from the mRNA vaccines, and the media circus was crickets on that topic. I mean, he's a sitting senator, and that should have been like, page one news. But
they won't allow it. They won't allow it.
They're paid by pharmaceutical industry execs, and this is a business model. The sicker you get, as long as you live, death isn't actually good for them because they can't harvest as much cash flow from you. So they'd like to kind of keep you disabled as long as possible. Yeah,
it's pretty sick stuff, and I think it's a twofer. I think there's two reasons we've had this massive cover-up. We're talking Ed Dowd, who's one of the great portfolio managers ever. He was at BlackRock, managed $14 billion. He's the founder of Finance Technologies, the author of the book Cause Unknown, The Epidemic of Sudden Deaths in 2021 and 2022, and he understands math. So I think it's twofold, Ed. First of all, think about the conflicts of interest they're facing in the media. They, first of all, chose in the beginning because of the big money from Big Pharma that they get, and the newsroom would all get fired. They'd have no money. Half of NBC, ABC, and CBS, they'd all lose their jobs if you cut out pharmaceutical advertising. So the conflict of interest is your job depends on not pissing off Big Pharma. So that's conflict number one. Conflict number two is they all, every single one of them in the media depends on this money to do anything and everything to make their money, their stock options, their stock gains, to hire people, to all the major executives in the office suite, the C-suites, all of them make, 20 million a year, 10 million a year, 15 million a year. They wouldn't make it if there wasn't $1 billion coming in from big pharma. Their salary depends on it at the top. And then they all covered up in the beginning because of all that. So don't you think now they have to continue the cover up, because then they would have to admit they covered up in the first place. So they got to continue the cover up. So they first covered up. Now it's a cover up of the cover up, because otherwise they're responsible for all the people that watched them that died. Even Fox News took money. You and I both know the government paid Fox News and Newsmax money in the millions to never allow a guest to talk negative about the COVID vaccine. You're aware of that, I assume?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There was a FOIA request, $1 billion in federal money, and I'm sure other monies from NGOs in the background.
So don't you think they could be sued? I think technically, if you watched Fox News and your mother died because she took the vaccine, because she never saw anything negative ever, they never presented both sides, Fox News could be sued for $1 trillion. Fox News could lose, Murdoch family could lose Fox News if the class action lawsuit came along. So they're all covering up the cover up, so they never have to ever go there in the first place. That's just my gut.
Well, your gut is correct, and there's precedent for that. I was there during the Enron days, and people asked, how did they carry on the fraud for so long? As it was unraveling, they continued to lie because the fraud was so big. They had to lie until someone put them in handcuffs and proved that they were lying. Right. And that's where we are with this COVID thing. The fraud is so big and so deep. They have to they got to pretend nothing's going on, and they will never admit to it unless forced to.
And what's amazing is, it just so happens that most lawyers are liberal. Not all, but most lawyers. I'll bet you 80% plus of lawyers are liberal. And I'll bet you in big towns like New York and LA, on the coast, it's 95% of lawyers are liberal. Every lawyer I meet hates Donald Trump, and they're all ranting and raving about everything Trump does. So that's the only reason that they're so greedy. You'd think there'd be massive multi-trillion-dollar class action lawsuits against Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson. You think they'd be suing Fox News? Some smart, enterprising lawyer should do a class action lawsuit against Fox News and sue them for billions, because thousands of their viewers died because they took money to not report the other side of the negative side effects of the COVID vaccine. So mommy died and daddy died, and now you're an orphan because Fox News wouldn't present both sides. And yet their motto is fair and balanced. We present both sides. I think there's a massive class action lawsuit there, certainly against Pfizer, but definitely against some of the media too. No one's doing it despite lawyers being greedy, because the lawyers are liberal. They took the vaccine, and they all actually believe this nonsense too in many cases, I would guess.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of them still believe it. But there's also another problem. A lot of Pfizer and these big media companies spread their law. They all have general counsels that seek outside counsel, and they put people on retainer. So a lot of these big law firms, even if they got a suit, we would have a conflict of interest. So it has to be someone small, brave, and phenomenally smart, but somehow, with enough gumption and funding to bring it to the finish line. So the big law firms aren't going to touch us with the 10-foot pole.
Wow, you're a smart guy. I didn't even think about that. You're right. So every one of these billion-dollar firms in D.C. and New York on Park Avenue, they've all got retainers with Big Pharma, so they can't take a lawsuit against Big Pharma. I didn't even think about that. Another insurance policy by Big Pharma to make sure they can't get sued. I never even thought about that. Interesting. Hey, let's take a quick break, and we'll finish the whole last segment to the end of the show with Ed, because he is fascinating. I still have so many questions for him. Edward Dowd is the founder of Finance Technologies, author of Cause Unknown, The Epidemic of Sudden Deaths in 2021 and 2022, former portfolio manager at BlackRock, where he oversaw a $14 billion portfolio. This is a smart guy. And he's not hoodwinked. He's not brainwashed. He understands, like I do, what actually happened to America and the gaslighting we are undergoing. And I don't know why everyone else, so many people are susceptible to this brainwashing and this gaslighting and this fraud and propaganda. And guys like me and Ed aren't. I saw through this from the first day. It's not like I woke up halfway through it. I mean, from the first day, I said I would not buy a new car in its first year of production because something's going to go wrong and maybe it'll kill me. Why would I let someone inject me with a drug in its first year untested And I said that from the first day. Let everyone else take it. You guys don't take it. I don't want my fans to ever take the vaccine for at least a year or two till it's proven it won't kill you. And so I figured this out from day one. I don't know why everybody else couldn't figure this out, but Edward Dowd figured it out. He's a smart guy, and I'm glad he's with us. We'll be right back. Wayne on the Root, Warzone Live. My website, rootforamerica.com, and you can email me anytime, wayneroot@gmail.com. And don't forget, you can ring the phones in about an hour and 15 minutes at America Speaks, my new show on Real America's Voice TV, 800-347-ROOT. Waiting for your calls, 800-347-ROOT. Be right back. All right, Wayne on the Root. The Root is on fire. We'll continue our conversation with Edward Dowd. His book is called Cause Unknown, The Epidemic of Sudden Deaths in 2021 and 2022. He's the founder of Finance Technologies. So your reaction, Ed, to the Fauci diaries and what was revealed, and also Fauci taking the fifth 111 times like John Gotti. What was your reaction to all that?
Well, look, it basically proved you and I were right about everything. Everything out of his mouth was basically a lie.
Right.
You know, the effectiveness. Let's start with the vaccine. Safe and effective. It was neither effective nor safe. He knew that. He knew the 6 foot distancing was nonsense. He knew masks were nonsense. He knew that closing down would not stop the spread. He made sure that early treatment was not allowed, so the vaccine would be ushered in. I mean, almost everything this guy did was purposeful and evil, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting is I saw that Fauci wrote a research paper. I just found that out over the weekend. He wrote a research paper about the Spanish flu. This is going back like 20 years. And in the research paper, which was Fauci's paper, he writes that the Spanish flu killed the most people in the history of the world. I don't remember what the number was, but like 20 million people died, something like that. And he says it turns out that most of them didn't die from the flu. They died from bacterial pneumonia, which came from the masks that they wore, which were filthy. And then he goes and recommends it for everybody in this updated day and age, where the same thing was happening. Little children would wear these filthy masks all day and then go play on the playground and wear the same filthy mask the whole day and pick their nose and wipe their butt and then put their hand on the mask and then put the mask against their face. Nothing is any different than the Spanish flu. Masks are filthy except in an operating room setting where they have piles of thousands of masks and the doctor grabs one, takes it off, puts a new one on, takes it off, puts a new one on. Nobody does that in the real world because masks cost too much money. So no one's going to put 12 of them on a day or 12 an hour. You know, so to wear the same mask all day is a filthy face diaper that causes bacterial pneumonia and infections and makes you a sick person. He knew that, and yet he recommended them.
Yeah, that's insane. I've also seen other different narratives about the Spanish flu. Masks were one of the culprits, and the bacterial pneumonia, and additionally, there was a vaccine that probably wasn't very good. And additionally, they were using aspirin, but the dosage was like crazy amounts of aspirin that may have killed a lot of people as well. Wow. when you came into the hospital. So there was a whole cacophony of things, but it certainly wasn't the Spanish flu, is what we're finding out.
Yeah, and speaking of killing people, I thought it was also interesting that Ron Johnson, who's a good friend of the show, he's on all the time, U.S. Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, the state that looks like it might very well elect a socialist/communist as the new governor of Wisconsin. Isn't that wonderful? Crazy people. But Ron Johnson had graphs, charts, like Ross Perot, you know, at the hearing, and he was showing how many people died. 40,000 people died or so, according to the VAERS, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. Now, I don't believe that number's right, Ed, because I saw Harvard study show only 1% of deaths ever get reported to VAERS. So if you multiply 40,000 deaths times 100, there might be 4 million deaths in the United States due to the COVID vaccine. I think the number's probably 500,000 to a million. But either way, 40,000 is ridiculously low. But let's take that number as the real number, 40,000. Let's assume it's the right number. First time ever, every person that died was reported to correctly to VAERS. when the Spanish flu was around in the 1970s, I think it was 78 or 79, they vaccinated like 50 million people and 25 died. Not 25,000, just 25 people died. And they canceled the entire program because 25 people died. Now you fast forward to today, 40,000 died. Not 4 million, not a million. Let's be reasonable. 40,000 died. No problem at all. Let's keep vaccinating everyone. And let's go walk into CVS. And it encourages you to get the vaccine even today. Isn't this insanity?
It's total insanity. And to your point about the swine flu in 76, there were 500 cases. I knew what you meant.
Got it.
There were 500 cases of Guillain-Barré syndrome.
Yes.
And 25 deaths, and they yanked the thing. And so let's fast forward. The VAERS, first of all, VAERS should have shut this down. I mean, they let it get to 40, but back in the early days, it had risen to like 4,000 or 5,000 pretty quick.
Right.
They should have shut it down.
Right.
And to the point of the frontline doctors, the CDC should have shut it down. The FDA hid they all hid stuff. And people like me and others that have done statistical work on this shouldn't have had any reason for existing. Like the fact that I had to come onto the scene was a joke. This should have been shut down by the regulatory bodies that are supposedly there to protect us. They did in the 70s, but apparently something happened between 1976 and 2021.
Someone realized they could make a lot of money on this vaccine. They didn't want to stop making the money. I really think that was a big part of it, unless I want to really be cynical. All my fans think I'm way too nice. Everyone says to me, Wayne, we love you. We love everything you say. But when it comes to the vaccine, you're too nice. You keep saying it was about greed and they all made billions, but you're not admitting that it was population control, that Gates and company wanted to kill millions of people. I just don't even get involved in that because I can't prove it. I don't know about that. I just know everyone made hundreds of billions of dollars and they wanted the gravy train to keep going. Whether or not, I don't think any doctor woke up in the morning and said, I hope I can kill 25 patients today. See, I don't want to say things like that because I don't think that's true. I think the doctors were brainwashed. I think they do whatever the CDC tells them, whatever the FDA tells them, whatever their boss tells them, because every doctor now is owned by some large corporation. And so I don't think anyone wanted to kill anyone purposely. Maybe at the top, maybe the Bill Gates did. But most of the people just wanted to believe they were helping everyone and they were making lots of money at the same time. So, I mean, I don't know. Where do you stand on the purposely wanting to kill millions because of overpopulation?
I've talked on this topic a lot in the last 6 years. I wasn't in the room, so I don't know.
Right.
But let's pretend that was one of the goals. A de facto depopulation is occurring as we speak. Excess deaths continue to this day, and birth rates are declining. So, but regardless of whether or not there was a plan, it's happening.
It works.
Number two, you don't even. To your point, you don't even need to assume that. It's power and money. Right. It's as old as Babylon.
That's what I always say. Exactly.
It's as old as Babylon. And so let's go back to the swine flu. Something happened between 76 and 2021. What happened? Regulatory capture by corporations, and corruption became a way of life in these institutions. That's it, bottom line.
Right. I mean, it's the same way I've seen all these things where, here's 12 leading Democrats who run Washington, and all of them have brothers and sisters and sister-in-laws in the media. It's so interplayed. It's so disgusting how they're all tied together. Every leading Democrat's got a brother and a sister who's involved with ABC, NBC, CBS. Their wife is involved with ABC, NBC, CBS. Well, I think it's the same thing. I think if you looked, you'd find that all the leading Democrats have someone in their family or a best friend who's on the board of pharma or a major salesman for pharma or a major owner of stock in Pfizer. They're all intertwined with each other. It's disgusting, the synergy between the media, the government, the Democrat Party, and Big Pharma. That's really what it comes down to.
Oh, that, and then there's the whole NGO system where, I remember Stacey Abrams after Biden left somehow started an NGO like months before he left, and it was funded with $2 billion.
$2 billion, right. It didn't have $100 in sales, and they gave him $2 billion. It's
Correct.
just the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life. You know, I've never seen. I'm a smart businessman. I've made a lot of millions in my life, and I've never been able to raise money for something that never made a dime. In other words, I don't understand. Only in politics can you go to the government and say, I have an idea. It's never made $1. It's never been proven. It's brand new. It's a bank account with zero in it. Could you give me $2 billion? And the government says, sure. I've never been around something like that in my entire life, Ed. I wish I could get Wall Street to give me $2 billion for an idea that's never been proven and has no money in the bank. But it doesn't happen in the private sector.
Oh, it's disgusting. And, you know, everyone should understand, when you ask yourself, why do some of these septuagenarian Democrat and some Republicans, the rhinos that we don't like, their net worths are hundreds of millions of dollars, and we know what their salary is. How does that happen?
Doesn't make any sense. All right, last thing, and then I'll let you run. Just, I thought at the hearing, they did a good job. I mean, they hammered him great. They really attacked Fauci, but they also, I think, were a little weak in some areas. Like, they attacked him for closing schools. In his own diary, admits he is the guy that fought to close the schools after years of claiming he never had anything to do with it. But what they didn't make the connection to, which I thought was weak, was, hey, it wasn't just that you closed schools. It's that you made sure that when they reopened the schools, that it was such a horrible threat that all the children would die, they had to be vaccinated, when you knew that not one child in all of America ever died of COVID unless they had childhood leukemia. Other than childhood cancer victims, no child died of COVID. So none of them, not only did they not have to cancel school, but none of them ever had to get vaccinated. And I don't think that part was brought up. You know, it's not that people have died from the vaccine. It's what's the future of children who got that vaccine? Are they in trouble 20 years from now, 5 years from now, today? I mean, that's a big issue that I think was left off.
Yeah, and, you know, look, during the throes of COVID in 22, 23, and 24, I remember there was a big push by the powers that be to get the COVID vaccine on the childhood schedule, because once you get it on the childhood schedule, they had the emergency declaration, but that was going to come off at some point. So if you got the COVID vaccine on the childhood schedule,
money,
you'd be indemnified forever.
Money. Government's going to pay for it. So you're guaranteed. How many children are there in America? Like 50 million? If they all have to get vaccinated, multiply 50 million times, I don't know, $50 or $100 a shot. And somebody's getting filthy rich. It's all about money and, as you say, indemnification. Of course, they can't come after them and go grab that money back. All right. Great talk, as always, with Ed. I just don't know, Ed, why people are so easily brainwashed. Guys like you and me are not. I'm cynical, and I think of everything government or people in authority say, and I go, let me think of how they might be lying. How come most people, they just go, okay, no problem, I'm a Stepford wife? I don't get it.
You know, the propaganda, we never saw such a propaganda campaign in all our lives. And the good news and the bad news is this: a lot of people fell for it, but as time rolls on, some people are peeling the onion layers and going down the rabbit hole and joining our ranks. It's a slow process, but this event that happened is forever changed trust in institutions going forward.
I don't know how anyone trusts anything that the government says, anything that Dr. Fauci or any medical expert says, any doctor says. They all turned out to be wrong about everything and liars about everything, and turned out to be killers while they were trying to claim that we were the bad guys. I don't know how you could trust in any authority anymore. And I think the truth is most people don't now trust in authority, but they did in 2020 and 2021, and that was sad. I never did. I never fell for it from day one, and I got fired from so many things, Ed. I lost my job as a columnist for the Las Vegas newspaper. I lost my job with Newsmax TV. They all were mad that I wouldn't listen to government and authority and people that were supposed to be experts and smarter than me. And guess what? Experts are wrong about everything. You don't listen to them. Edward Dowd, founder of Finance Technologies, author of Cause Unknown, The Epidemic of Sudden Deaths in 2021 and 2022, who oversaw BlackRock's $14 billion portfolio. Very smart guy. Glad we have a smart guy on our side. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
All right, that's it for today's show. I'm Wayne Allyn. This has been Warzone Live. Don't forget, coming up in less than 1 hour now, about 55 minutes, is my new show, America Speaks, on Real America's Voice TV network. You can watch it live on the YouTube channel of Real America's Voice. or you can wait tonight till midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific to watch it. But either way, you can call in 1 hour, less than 1 hour, at 800-347-ROOT and talk to me. Ask me questions, comments, or opinions. I bring the show live to Las Vegas on Friday. That's completely sold out. You can't get tickets anymore at the Allyn Hotel in Las Vegas starting at 1 o'clock. My show and Eric Bowling's show will be live in front of a live studio audience, and you can ask me all the questions you want in person. But in the meantime, call up 800-347-ROOT. I would love to hear from you. So have a great night. God bless you. God bless Trump. God bless America. And as I always say, viva my tax-free Las Vegas.